All right,
Yeah.
let's get to a couple other thoughts here. Jeff Garcia did an interview on with
Mhm.
TMZ Sports, and you probably put this out on your Instagram, but he basically said that the 49ers should make Brock Purdy the starter for next season if he's healthy and explore trade options for Trey Lance.
Yeah, I saw that.
That Garcia's process is that Brock Purdy runs Kyle's offense at a higher level than Trey Lance, and that you shouldn't have Trey Lance as the backup, that you should move Trey on and get, some collection of talent or picks that can help you win with Purdy. What'd you think of it when you saw the interview? What do you think of his idea?
So, first thing is, man, these former 49er quarterbacks are not Trey Lance supporters. That's what I first thought. I was like, man, Joe Montana, Steve Young a couple months ago in November said, stick to Jimmy for 10 more years. I remember that article. And then now this one, I was like, okay, Jeff, like, what is the issue? And I don't think it's like horrible to say Trey Lance, trade him. If Brock Purdy was healthy and stuff, but he's not. He's going into the surgery, and there's a lot of uncertainty with Brock Purdy. Like, I know it's supposed to be that 6-month window, could be more. When the surgeon goes in and says, "Hey, look, we might need to do more extensive stuff." So then you're left without really a quarterback option. And I know a lot of people are kind of fretting on Trey because he's unproven, but hey, you traded up to get him. I think if they just give him the ability to compete, like he said, I think he'll prove himself. But I don't want to trade Trey, especially if Brock Purdy, there's an uncertainty. And what we saw this season, I think the 49ers will only be smart to keep the quarterbacks they have on the roster because you never know. With this team, they went through quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. I want to make sure there's an insurance policy. And you know what? Maybe Trey might not want to be backup quarterback. But with this team, there's always the possibility of somebody going down, and then that next man up and that next opportunity will arise, and then you make the most of it. That's exactly what Brock Purdy did. He probably didn't think he was going to be in that position, but he was, and he made absolutely he made everything out of that opportunity. And now we're sitting here saying, wow, this is Brock's team. But again, he's injured. We don't know. And we don't know if he's going to be throwing the same. We don't know how his shoulder or his elbow is going to respond after the surgery. So I would keep Trey Lance. I'm not trading him. He has a lot of potential. We know he has that crazy, crazy ceiling. He's got the athleticism. He's got the arm. He just needs to kind of harness it, develop a little bit. And he's just raw. He's just this raw prospect that we don't know because he hasn't played football. But would I trade him if I'm the GM of the 49ers? Absolutely not.
It's interesting. Kathy says the uncertainty about Purdy's health should be largely resolved in a week. I kind of disagree with that, Kathy. I think the scope of the surgery is going to be known by the 22nd. So we're going to know based on when they open up that elbow. Do they see something more? It sounds, Raj, like Purdy and his family and they've given Dr. Meister, who's going to do the surgery, the kind of the latitude when he opens up that elbow to do right by Brock's elbow, repair the elbow. Whether that means he's out 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, you know what I mean? I get the sense that they don't want to take any risks with Brock's career and that we probably will have a idea of the scope of the injury, in a couple days after that surgery. But still, we don't know exactly how he'll respond once he starts throwing. I don't. The Niners are in a weird spot because it's like, in a way, I think you always have to listen. I think if you're a GM, you got to listen. You got to listen for if somebody comes to you. Who knows? Maybe Rand Carthon offers you a top 10 pick and a player for Trey. Maybe there's some team that offers you. Somebody threw out, would you take Chase Young from the Commanders, who obviously need a quarterback, badly need a quarterback. Well, and Chase Young, they're trying to decide if they're going to pick up his 5th-year option. I guess my point is, if I knew Brock was healthy, I'd be a little bit more open to trade Trey.
Yeah.
Only because I don't see Trey as the ideal backup quarterback to Brock. I think Trey needs to play. And also, I think if Trey's going to be real, I think Trey needs to play. I guess, and what I brought this up this week, and tell me what you think of this. I would say, if I'm John Lynch, I would want to meet with Trey, his agent, his family, and just say, Trey, this is kind of where we're at. We gave you the shot. You got hurt. It was unfortunate. Um, we gave Brock the shot. He played well, showed some really good things. Then he got hurt. We're going to try to get you guys both healthy and playing. We still believe in both of you, but I guess I would need to know from Brock and from Trey, hey, I need to know that if we have a competition this summer and you guys compete for the starting job, that whoever loses the job stays positive and stays with us. As far as I don't want a September the 5th trade demand 1 month before the trade deadline that's going to turn into some gigantic media, 5 week circus that surrounds the early portion of our schedule. I don't want that. So if you're going to, we all know you guys want to be here if you win the job, but do you want to be here if you lose the job? And if you don't want to be here if you lose the job, then I think, tell us that and we'll see what we can, at least we'll know going in that this is the scoreboard. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but I think it could really hurt the 49ers locker room, their chemistry, and maybe even their team if, I don't know, Brock beat out Trey and then Trey's agent makes a demand in mid-September saying, trade me by middle of October. I think that would be a really negative thing that could really negatively impact the season. So I'd want assurances from both quarterbacks that, what level are you in with us? Are you in with us if you win it, the starting gig, or are you in with us as the number two? And what do you think of that approach? Do you think that's a doable thing to have that dialogue and be totally open with both quarterbacks and their representations and find out exactly where they sit mentally?
I honestly think that's the way you have to do it because they're both young. I'm sure they both want a chance to like both of these guys think they can be the starter. They're less than 23 years old or at that age. They're at that point where they're like, look, this is my career. This is where I went to, wanted to do with my life. This is my opportunity. And they both know they're both good. They both know they have each other's back. They want what's best for each other. But at the same time, they both want to compete and have that opportunity. I think that the 49ers owe it to both of them and say, hey, look, we're going to sit you down. We both want you guys to compete. We never thought we'd be at this point. Yeah, both are good in our eyes, but let the best man win, and there's no hard feelings. I think they need to, especially for Trey, because he was the number 3 pick, and I think they need to realize, hey, look, if you want to leave, that's okay, because we know we took you, we drafted you with the number 3 pick. There was a lot of pressure, we gave up a lot. If you want to leave, just like no hard feelings. They need to let him know that. So in his mind, he knows, okay, they want to give me this opportunity. And he said in his interview last week, he says, I just want the chance to compete. He said, there's nothing, no hate to Brock Purdy. He says, I'd be stupid to sit here and say that I should just be handed the job. So I think in Trey Lance's mind, that's what he wants. He just wants to go out there and get that opportunity. But I think it's very smart for the team to lay everything on the table because I don't think they did that in the past. And it got a little messy and it got awkward and it got ugly. And it was weird because you had this like weird situation with Jimmy. You brought in Trey. And I feel like maybe the locker room was kind of like, oh, you're replacing Jimmy. Well, we got this young buck. He's 21. Jimmy just took us to the Super Bowl. Like, what is going on? So for not only their mental, but for the rest of the team, I think we just need to make sure that there's no hard feelings. Everybody knows this is the plan, and we're not going to stray from it because it did seem a little messy. You know what I mean? Those last few years.
No doubt. No doubt. I mean, it's just, there's like awkwardness. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, Jimmy's here, Trey's here, now's Brock's here. And it's like, what exactly is the plan? I don't think there's any harm in just saying, hey, you know what? Let's be real with each other. Let's, to me, all great relationships, whether it be a marriage, friendship, work relationships, they're built on honesty. It's like,
Yeah.
be honest with me, man. Tell me what you want to get out of this, and then I can help you in work. Or, maybe it's a girlfriend. Hey, be honest about, it's like you hear these people, hey, we got married, it didn't work out, 3 years in, it all fell apart. Why? Well, she wanted to have kids and I never wanted to have kids. Well, you know what? That you got to know yourself going in. You got to have that conversation up front. Hey, you know what? I'm not going to be happy if we don't have a family. or I can't be happy without a family, where the other person, and you got to be on the same page on some of those core things. And I think in your most important relationships, and I would say your relationship with your quarterback in a football organization is absolutely near or at very near the very top of the list as far as important relationships. Be honest. Be
Yeah.
honest. There's no, and nobody would fault Trey if he said, you know what, I want to start this year. And if I'm
Yeah.
not going to start, I want to be elsewhere. And if that's the way he feels, I want to know that if I'm John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan up front. It's not going to
Yeah.
affect the competition, but it might affect how I act when I get trade demands. Because I'm looking at the draft and I'm looking at free agency, and I've watched Trey Lance, and there's no doubt in my mind that Trey Lance is a better option for a number of teams that don't have quarterbacks than you're going to get in free agency or the draft.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have like a top 8 pick, you're probably not getting one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks. And
No.
then I would probably put Trey right in there between, like, I would think he might be in this draft, maybe second or third best quarterback in the entire draft.